In August last year, Carte Blanche took our viewers on a journey from the west to the east of Johannesburg. We showed how toxic acid water from mining across the reef had destroyed a river system in the Western Basin as it headed towards the cradle of humankind. How it was rising out of Johannesburg directly beneath Standard Bank and Gold Reef City's mine, and how in the Eastern Basin dedicated staff at Aurora Mine, realizing the potential crisis, kept pumping water despite not being paid for months.
Well, I think the politicians basically are fiddling as if, it's like they're fiddling while Rome burns. It's a shocking situation we're facing at the moment.
Since the story aired in August, the situation in 3 of the basins has deteriorated further. In the Western Basin, heavy rains increased the toxic outflow of water into a tributary of the Crocodile, killing anything in its path. Across the reef in the east, this pumping station is now underwater as angry Aurora staff chucked in the towel. And beneath Johannesburg, the water is rising at 15 meters a month, due at the surface April 2012. Since our last story, the mine water crisis across Johannesburg has been headline news around the world. The government appointed a technical task team which has reported back to the ministers involved. They compiled this report released last week in which they outlined suggestions to fix the problem in the short term. Edna Molewa is the new Minister of Water Affairs.
One of the things that the team of experts suggested is that we should begin with the area around Krugersdorp, where the problem is very bad right now. And that's a decision right now that stands. There's money provided for that program.
And after a long stalemate, government have finally agreed to pick up the tab to pump and partially treat the water.
How much will it cost?
Right now, there's almost 400 million rand. We do know that the amount that's needed is going to be close to $1 billion thereabout. And that's not the end.
Professor Terence McCarthy, appointed after our story as one of the advisors on the team, outlined the solution for us.
And what the recommendations are is to try and return the situation to the status quo as it was in the case of the Central Basin to 2008, in the case of the Western Basin 2002, and in the case of the Eastern Basin what it is before Grootfontein stopped pumping. So that will involve pumping and basic treatment, which involves precipitation of the iron and the heavy metals, and with the addition of lime and oxygen, and then release of a sulfate-rich water into the rivers.
But pumping is only half the story. Water is so toxic it needs to be treated properly before it's released into the rivers, and that is where the proposed solution falls short. The team proposed that government neutralize the water. What this means is that lime is added, as you see here. That attracts the heavy metal particles to settle to the bottom as a toxic sludge. Around 100,000 tons a year of the sludge will need to find a home in pits like these. The rest of the water is released into rivers. It still contains salt or sulfate levels way beyond any international or locally acceptable levels.
Well, it's not a long-term solution because you need high-quality water to dilute, but you also need to use that high-quality water for consumers. So you're caught between a rock and a hard place. You're having to throw away good water simply to improve the quality of bad water. And that is an enormous waste.
Already 1 million tons of sulfates a year are going into the Vaal barrage. Clean water from the Vaal Dam is released simply to dilute the water, so it can be cleaned up for drinking downstream. High salts means your water costs could double.
So in order to provide additional water to allow for the dilution, they will have to bring on the Lesotho Highlands scheme earlier. If you can take the salts out or prevent them getting in, then obviously you save water.
So surely then salt removal should be at the heart of any solution. We took a look at 3 different solutions to see what's on offer. Physicist Richard Doyle says their solution is zero waste as it removes all the salts.
The water problem, the mine effluent problem, is not a water problem, it's a salt problem. All of the technologies can manage, or many of them can produce clean water. What differentiates us is that we can usefully employ the salts, and that's critical.
His startup company is turning the salts into fertilizer and explosives, and attracting a lot of interest from overseas. Now, ion exchange can be complicated chemistry, but Richard's going to make it easy for us so that you and I can understand it. Richard asked us to imagine the acid water as vegetable soup.
So here's a tin of soup. Imagine this comes in the front of the plant. There's our pilot plant. It's a small version of what we'd eventually build, and the easiest way to think about it is that on this side we've got this type of vegetables, carrots let's say, yellow vegetables. These are typically the metals like the uranium, like the calcium and magnesium and iron and aluminium. And in here we've got little resin bees, but these are like little rabbits. So what we do is we put the soup in here, and these little rabbits grab the carrots because they like them. All right. What comes out of there is the vegetable soup, but it's now only got peppers in it. And here we've got little donkeys that like the peppers, and they grab the peppers. So we take the carrots out there, and we take the peppers out here. What comes out the back, as you'll see, is just drinking water. We've completely cleaned the water.